We've been talking a lot about water lately, and right now we're looking at floods. We're talking about the causes of floods, talking about prevention and control of floods. And so in this video, we're going to discuss all of that. First off, most floods are caused by quickly melting snow and heavy rain. Have you ever heard the National Weather Service say that there was going to be a flash flood warning? And what does that really mean? It simply means that we're going to have a flood that occurs quickly, out of nowhere. You'd be driving down the road and everything looks fine, and the next thing you realize the road is filling with water and you can't drive through it or your car might get stuck. So what factors do you think might cause a flash flood? What about rainfall? Have you ever heard anyone say that it was raining cats and dogs? That term refers to the intensity of rainfall. You're talking about a lot of rain that happens in a really short period of time. Also, if it rains for days and days and days, that's the duration of rainfall, or how long. So imagine if you had rain that was falling really hard for a lot of days. That's a high rate of rainfall, and it's likely to cause flash flooding. No, it just came out. The final factor which affects last but not least, we have the surface condition. If you have a ground that is made up of nice loose soil with lots of holes and pores, it's going to allow water to drain right down in through those holes and pores into the soil and down into a place underground where water sits. If you rather have a parking lot or a place that's completely concrete and asphalt, that is not porous. It doesn't really have holes going into it. And also, think about when you have a blacktop made in your yard, like your driveway. We did that, and the guys came and they sealed it, and we have to get it sealed every couple of years to keep it from allowing anything to go through, because you want to keep the water away from your house. So you seal your driveway so all the water runs off down into the backyard. So that factor is known as surface condition. The condition of the surface of the ground. Is it holy? Is it not holy? So that's actually one thing that worsens flooding, is if you have blacktop or asphalt. That's going to make flooding even worse. Also, think about, we talked about those homes that were near the Calumet River in Munster and what happened to those homes and businesses. They flooded when the levee broke. So is it bad to build on a floodplain? Yeah, don't do that, because it's going to increase the effects of flooding for you. So that's number 3, the failure of a levee or a dam. The fourth, that's 4. And final thing that will cause flooding to become worse, human interference. Stop interfering! All right, you guys, it's 3:50. I want to go home. We got more to talk about. So hang in there, because I'm tireder than you are. So, I'm the kind of person who always says, like, if you're going to complain about something, you need to come up with a solution to the problem. So the last topic I have is flood control. 4 methods. There they are again. 4 methods of flood control. Number 1, limit development. I already told you, don't build on a floodplain because you're asking to have your house flood. Number 2, dams are a good way to hold water and keep that water back and let it out slowly. So we're talking about like a dam on a river. We're going to go ahead and hold the extra water back and just let it through when it's a good time to let it through, and make sure that the area doesn't flood. Number 3, artificial levees. We've already talked about 2 instances in which a levee broke. Nevertheless, they are a good thing the majority of the time, because if we did not have a levee on the Calumet River, we would have way more flooding on a daily basis. Whereas right now, we get it once in a while when the levees have a problem. Okay? All right, the last thing is the first new topic I have on this paper for you, and that is about drainage basins. When you hear the word drainage, what do you think of? You think of a drain. with water going down it. Maybe in your bathtub, maybe in your kitchen sink, maybe even your toilet. But these are nature's drainage basins, and they are basically the ground. Think about what major body of water we have in our area. Lake Michigan, you got it. We belong to the Great Lakes watershed, specifically the Lake Michigan Drainage Basin. So the water that drains out of our ground, when it seeps in and it runs off and it travels to the lake, that water is going to feed Lake Michigan. So therefore, we belong to their drainage basin, the basin they drain from. Well, what's going to divide our drainage basin from the Lake Erie Drainage Basin or the Lake Superior Drainage Basin? And I already used the word for you. It's not very scientific. It's just called a divide. So let me show you a picture of a divide. This here is a visual of the Great Lakes Drainage Basin. You will see that each boundary between two colors separates the different drainage basins from one another. So that is where you have a divide, the boundary between the two different colors. Okay guys, this here is the last paper you need to be looking at tonight. We want to look at the porosity of these different materials as well as the structure in these pictures. So one thing I want you to notice is the porosity of the first picture. It has large gaps in between the rocks, so it therefore has a high porosity. Take a look here and note that the gaps between the rocks are smaller. Not necessarily that the size of the rocks are smaller, but the gaps between are smaller, so it has a low porosity. I want you to figure out these two for yourself. All right, that's an assignment. Figure out these two. Taking a look at the top here, you have some models of the Earth. All right, and in this first one, I know it's backwards on my page, but it'll be right on yours. You have what's called the water table. That's just the level of the water which is under the ground in the saturated zone. Above the water table is the unsaturated zone, or the zone of aeration. And hey, let's say you live in an area where we don't have good sewers and good water pipes and things like that. You'll have a well. So you'll dig your well down into the zone of saturation, because that's where the water is. Otherwise, how would you get it? So this was during the wet months. This here says is the water table during the dry season. I'm trying to look at the paper while I look at this. All right. So the new is for the dry season down here. This is the one we just looked at, was the wet season. All right. So what do you notice about the water during the dry season? Yeah, it's gone down. So our well is almost barely not even in the zone of saturation anymore. So I think they might would have wanted to dig this well a little deeper. Yeah, okay. Last picture. You have a freshwater well and this cone of depression. Basically what it did is the well is sucking so hard trying to get water out of the ground. All right, sea level is right here. And that water really does just not want to come above sea level. It's not comfortable. It messes with the atmospheric pressure. The water over here should be equal to the height of the water over here. So in order to make that water come up the well, it starts to circulate and suck up. In response, it creates this cone of depression, or basically like this little, like, I don't know, like it looks like you punched a pillow. Okay, right there. All right, children, here's your last assignment. You need to go ahead and take a look at this paper, and you have some words you need to label. Zone of saturation, zone of aeration, precipitation, body of water, Earth's surface, and water table. Those go in lines 1 through 6. And that's it. Thank you very much.